Nobody expected that an ordinary summer night in Salt Lake City, Utah, the beginning of a 9-month nightmare for a peaceful and loving family, was brewing in the shadows. This case brings in the question, what happens when every parent's worst fear becomes a reality? This is the story of Elizabeth Smart, her life, her abduction, and her tale of resilience, bravery, hope, and transformation. Join us as we unfold her journey from a victim of a horrendous crime to a vocal advocate for change, turning personal tragedy into an ongoing fight for the safety of children everywhere. Elizabeth Smart was much like any other teenager living in Salt Lake City, Utah. Her life is pretty ordinary, and like a lot of youngsters, she enjoys music and even plays the harp. Ed and Lois Smart, her loving and doting parents, gave Elizabeth a home that is rich with values and love. Along with her 5 siblings, she lived in a world where safety and togetherness were a given, not a luxury. Overall, Elizabeth lived a pretty common life, and she had a bright future ahead of her. She was diligent in school, and her family completely embodies that peace and innocence everyone wants. However, unbeknownst to Elizabeth and her family, something will happen that will change their lives forever. The date was June 5th, 2002, and the peace of the Smart family's Salt Lake City home was violently destroyed. Elizabeth, who was 14 at the time, was deeply asleep in the bedroom she shared with her younger sister. Out of nowhere, a man found an unlocked window and managed to silently enter the house, threatening the safety of the family. He was armed with a knife, and he approached Elizabeth's bed. He then threatened her life if she tried to resist or alert her sister for help. The girl was terrified and was paralyzed by fear. She was scared for her life but was also concerned about her younger sister's safety. In young Elizabeth's mind, she had no choice. This is how Elizabeth recalls her experience.
At first, I don't even remember having thoughts of what it was in my mind. I mean, it was just complete shock.
Her sister, witness to this terrifying ordeal, lay in petrified silence, fearing for her own life as well as Elizabeth's. She waited until the coast was clear, and she immediately alerted her parents. This traumatic event marked the beginning of a long and difficult 9 months, during which Elizabeth had to fight for her life against all odds, leaving behind her innocence and embarking on a daunting journey for survival. As everyone searched for Elizabeth, what the community and the authorities did not know was that she was being kept close to home. Under the custody of Brian David Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee, she was just miles from her Salt Lake City home. Elizabeth was kept captive in a makeshift campsite that was concealed in the dense woods of the Wasatch Mountains, not far from her family home. This stark contrast between being near her loved ones and being isolated in captivity made her ordeal even more cruel. She was kidnapped on June 6, 2002, and from that day on, Elizabeth experienced unimaginable horrors on a daily basis. She was tied to a tree with crude cables and ropes, making it impossible for her to break free. But this physical confinement was only the start of the suffering she would have to endure.
I was raped every day. It got to the point where I stopped thinking that I had hit rock bottom, because every time I thought that, he would come up with something new to make the situation worse.
Aside from the distance between Elizabeth's home and where she is being kept close, her abductors are not completely strangers to the Smart family. Their lives intersected with the Smart family in what appeared to be harmless situations, when Brian had a short stint working for the Smarts as a handyman. This brief job gave Brian important information and entry into the Smart household, allowing him to plan Elizabeth's abduction in a disturbingly detailed manner. Even though his time working there was brief, it was enough for Brian and Wanda to take advantage of the trust that was unknowingly given to them. Brian declared himself a prophet sent by God, coercing Elizabeth into a fake marriage and subjecting her to numerous sexual assaults and psychological manipulation aimed at erasing her sense of self and independence. He and his wife employed religious language to rationalize their behavior, combining mental abuse with physical harm in an attempt to crush Elizabeth's resilience. Elizabeth endured relentless abuses at the campsite, facing both the brutality of her captors and the unforgiving elements of nature. She braved cold temperatures at night and inadequate shelter, feeling worlds away from the love and safety of her home. In July 2002, things took a scary turn when Brian even tried to abduct Elizabeth's cousin. Though this attempt failed, it didn't result in his immediate capture because suspicions were directed at Richard Ricci, a man who had a criminal past and had previously worked at the smart home. Although there was no solid proof tying him to Elizabeth's disappearance, Ricci was quickly labeled as the main suspect. The intense scrutiny and media attention took a toll on Ricci, leading to his tragic death in custody from a brain hemorrhage. He was later determined to be unrelated to Elizabeth's abduction. Just when the family was starting to lose hope, in October 2002, everything changed when her younger sister, Mary Catherine, suddenly remembered something important. She recalled the voice of the kidnapper, revealing his identity as Brian David Mitchell, a former employee in their household.
The guy said, "Be quiet. If you scream, I'll shoot you, but if you don't, I won't harm you."
Did his voice sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me where you've heard that before?
No, I can't remember.
This revelation sparked renewed hope in the search for Elizabeth. After Mary Catherine shared information with law enforcement, a sketch of Brian was made public in 2003. This sketch quickly spread, prompting many tips from people who had seen him in Salt Lake City. These tips eventually led to a breakthrough, paving the way for Elizabeth's rescue. On the brisk morning of March 12, 2003, an air of anticipation came on Salt Lake City amid rumors of Elizabeth Smart's potential sighting. The community, holding on to hope, was on the verge of a moment many had prayed for. The saga began with a vigilant passerby's call to the police, reporting a young girl with a peculiar couple, closely resembling the missing Elizabeth. The girl was found with a drifter and former handyman, Emmanuel, who is actually Brian David Mitchell, and his accomplice, Wanda Eileen Barzee. Law enforcement quickly located and stopped the trio in Sandy, Utah, their identities confirmed by another citizen's call. Elizabeth's safe recovery brought waves of relief and joy across the community, leading to an emotional reunion at the Salt Lake City police station. Elizabeth, changed by her ordeal but resilient, reunited with her family in a tearful moment of redemption and hope, marking the start of her healing journey. She recounts her thoughts during her abduction.
I decided I was going to do whatever it took. It didn't matter what it was. I'd do whatever it took to survive.
This reunion symbolized the power of community, vigilance, and hope against adversity, paving the way for Elizabeth's recovery and inspiring others with her resilience and the strength of the human spirit. The road to justice for Elizabeth Smart was filled with obstacles, largely because of the complicated mental health evaluations of the perpetrators. The question of their ability to stand trial was a significant issue, leading to lengthy hearings.
We're staying with some friends in the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm a minister for the Lord.
Brian's strange behavior in court and his assertions of receiving divine messages initially cast doubt on his mental state. However, he was ultimately deemed fit to stand trial. Wanda's legal process moved more swiftly once she agreed to a plea bargain, admitting guilt to charges of kidnapping and illegally moving a minor. Elizabeth Smart's impactful story of her abduction and mistreatment provided crucial evidence, refuting the arguments of the defense and showcasing her courage and determination. Her appearance in court highlighted her resilience and served as a source of inspiration for many. Fortunately, the justice system worked effectively in this case. Brian was found guilty of kidnapping and illegal transportation of a minor for sexual purposes, resulting in a life sentence in May 2011. His wife, who had reached a plea agreement, was given a 15-year sentence, taking into account the time she had already served since her arrest in 2003. However, her release in September 2018 generated conflicting emotions. Emphasizing the nuanced nature of justice, and the process of rehabilitation. Elizabeth Smart's traumatic experience encouraged her into action. She founded the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, and through it, she managed to channel her experiences to become a voice for change and place focus on the prevention of sexual violence, as well as emphasizing advocacies that promote improved child safety measures. In a recent interview, Elizabeth talks about one of her campaigns.
We believe you. I mean, that's one of my favorite campaigns, initiatives. We run it all November long, and it is an educational campaign that we run to educate communities on how to respond when someone discloses, but also to help survivors know that we do believe them.
Furthermore, the organization has created educational initiatives aimed at kids, parents, and teachers to raise awareness and provide prevention strategies for kidnappings and sexual abuse. Her advocacy has not only established her as a prominent figure in the battle against sexual violence, but has also sparked substantial progress in the way society deals with and supports survivors of these crimes. Elizabeth Smart's journey from being kidnapped to becoming a key figure in the fight against sexual violence is nothing short of inspiring. With her foundation, public talks, and books, Smart has turned her nightmare into a force for positive change, pushing for new laws and raising awareness about the struggles faced by survivors of abduction and sexual abuse. Her incredible strength and commitment shine as a ray of hope, not just for those who've been through similar experiences, but for all of us, showing the powerful difference one person's story can make. Elizabeth Smart's life post-abduction is a powerful reminder of how we can fight back against darkness with resilience and light, marking her not only as a survivor, but as a frontrunner in the global effort to safeguard children's rights and well-being. What are your thoughts on Elizabeth's story of turning tragedy into triumph? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. See you on the next one.